our second week, and it's been, as I hope for you guys as well, a great couple of weeks. And we will be having a break for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we'll resume back on Monday at 4 p.m. as usual. Now, for today, our speaker, guys, is Dr. Myriam Malhame, who is an assistant professor in psychology in the School of Arts and Sciences. I do believe she's been with us for the best part of 3 years now. Now, Dr. Myriam has her expertise in the field of cognitive neuroscience, and she has a lot of research interests. I will just list to you guys 2 or 3 of those quite quickly before we proceed. One of her areas deals with monitoring anxiety, depression, and stress among the college population. And then she attempts to correlate her findings with grades, the relationship to other friends, their sleeping patterns, their consumption of coffee, among others. Now, Dr. Myriam is also interested in studying music as therapy for Alzheimer's patients. Myriam is also working on determining the benefits of gratitude itself, and pretty much just saying thank you and being nice and understanding etiquette and so on among healthy populations such as the Red Cross, and then studying its impact on their general health, including sleep quality. Now, in addition to being faculty at LEU, Myriam is also a clinical psychologist. I think she's been doing that for about 10 years now, whereby she tends to treat her patients who have been diagnosed with depression using psychotherapy, whereby she tends to rewire their brain in order to help them overcome their trauma. Now, Myriam is also interested in studying the interactions between the brain and emotions, more on emotions, I do believe, on Monday afternoon. And I think this is where I stop introducing Dr. Malhame, and I home in on our subject for today, how to manage stress during this period. I don't think I need to explain what we are going through at this moment in time. It's been over a month, so I think we're all on the same page. And hopefully Myriam can take the floor from here, and wish you guys happy listening, I guess, right? Virtual listening. So Myriam, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Robin. Hi, everybody. I'll start by thanking Sherbil, Robin, the continuing education at LAU, the Faculty of Arts and Sciences as well, and each and every one of you for joining this webinar to enrich it, and for us to have this casual afternoonish chit-chat to talk about stress. I want to say a quick hi to my kids and nephews watching me, Letizia, Christina, Julia, Luca. Major thanks for my sister for watching over them. We have with us family, friends from Lebanon and abroad. My colleagues at LAU, hi everyone. I hope you can hear me and see me well. Friends of LAU, community at large. But also all of you from different walks of life, students, corporate employees, business owners. And we're going to be spending this afternoon talking about, talking about stress, and most importantly, how to manage our stress. So if you're ready, let's buckle up and let's go for this. So this is meant to be a kind of interacting webinar. I will be doing most of the talking, and if you need to interact, I encourage you to use the chat board that you have. I know that Robin and Sherbil will be helping me to go through them, and I promise that at the end of the talk, I'll take the time to answer and reply to as many questions as we possibly can. So if you're ready, let's go and let's start talking about stress. Quick question I want to ask you before we start is, are you feeling more stressed since the beginning of the lockdown up till now? So I'm going to ask you to be voting, and I'm going to be launching my slides as well. All right, so today we're going to be talking about stress and anxiety. We use these terms interchangeably, but I'd like to introduce a small nuance between them. And we'll spend most of the focus talking about how we can manage. Again, this is interactive, so you're more than welcome to share your ideas and inputs on the matter as well. So the way we are going to be doing this is I hope that I can bring from my experience and background as a professor, as a clinical psychologist, as a neuroscientist, but also as a mom, a daughter, and a friend to help us discuss stress. Heads on, and because I'm fascinated with neuroscience, I'd like to show you how stress is processed in the brain. And I'd also like to maybe revamp a common misconception we might be having about stress. And then we're going to be moving to talking about, or you're going to be telling me, so I'm going to show you how this happens in the brain, and then hopefully you're going to be telling me how you're dealing with this, what is this changing in your personal life since the beginning of the lockdown. Then I'm going to introduce small superheroes that we have, that nature has equipped us with to help us better deal with stress. And then we'll spend most of our time discussing the arsenal of techniques and tools that we have to manage stress. I'm sharing the poll results. I don't know if you can see them on your screen. So 70% of you are saying that they're more stressed since the beginning of the lockdown. And I think this is great. And I'm going to be telling you why in a minute. So let's start defining, or maybe perhaps redefining stress. So in psychology, we consider stress, even though the common misconception is to associate it with negative things, we consider stress to be an imbalance or between environmental demands and personal resources. So before we talk about lockdown, which is going to be the focus of our discussion here, let's take any example of stress. Okay, donc if you have exams, if you have an assignment that is due, if you have enough resources, so this is the environmental demand, if you have enough resources to deal with it, then if you have enough time, if you have maybe the previous's, the exam is going to be less stressful. So it's a balance between environmental demands and personal resources. And by the way, it can be a very positive stress, like weddings and promotions, but obviously today we are focusing on the negative stress. So when there's an imbalance between environmental demands and personal resources. What happened during this lockdown, يعني أولاً with the corona outbreak, بعدين with the lockdown, is that we were flooded with environmental demands. يعني environmental demands suddenly increased dramatically, and we were not prepared for this. Let me give you an example of demands. If you're a business owner, you need to figure out how to run your business with all the lockdown, the airport being closed, etc. How to find ways to pay your employees. If you're a parent working from home, you need to juggle between work, life, kids, house, etc. If you are a student, you need to adjust to online learning. So these are huge environmental demands. And if you're a healthcare worker, and of course this is a chance to say, to give a shout out for everyone in the health sector, then of course you're being flooded with demands. Now at the same time, المشكلة هي إنه these demands are dramatically increasing, وبنفس الوقت due to the lockdown, our personal resources are decreasing. يعني in terms of financial resources, in terms of time resources, we have less time لأنه we need to juggle a lot of mental load at the same time. It could be also because we don't know how. So if we are teaching online or if we're learning online, maybe we don't have the basic tools, maybe we don't know how to use these tools. So the personal resources we have are decreasing. And the most important one is actually the social support that we randomly used to get from our colleagues, from our classmates. So now this is absolutely gone because of the lockdown. The key term in the definition of stress is perceived imbalance. يعني it has to do with our perception. ليش perception is very important؟ هلا أولاً لأن it's common sense وراح تشوفوا إنه I will be using a lot of the sayings يلي بنتداولهم بالدارج and they're very spot on. So نحن بنقول يلي بيشوف مصيبة غيره بتهون مصيبته. What does this mean؟ المصيبة بعدها هي ذاتها ما تغيرت. But to learn to have a different option or the different perspective. Now scientifically, so هيدي الأقوال الشعبية. Scientifically كمان نفس الوقت, we know that when you change perception, your brain response changes accordingly. خليني أفرجيكم هالصورة and tell me in the chat box, what do you see? What can you see from this first picture that I shared? different things, like what? Two faces, a vase, two faces, faces, more faces, faces and a vase. Okay, let me show you another picture there. هيدا شو بتطلع معكم؟ Okay, table. Whoa. Bird, rabbit, duck, rabbit. So my point is, thank you everyone for participating so actively. The point is, there is no right or wrong in psychology. There are just different perception, different appreciation of the same thing. If you're looking, تناخد the first image, for example, if you're looking at the face, you're recruiting a different brain area than if you are looking at the vase. And I want you to keep in mind this idea of difference of perception when we talk about focusing on the positive a bit later. How do we process stress in the brain? وليش I'm saying, guys, stress is actually the best thing that has happened to our species to allow us to survive. We are wired to be negative. Okay, we are wired to focus on the negative, to focus on the stress. I'm going to show you how this happens in the brain. And I'm sorry if I'm bursting your pinky bubble, but this is the truth. If you look from a neuroscientific perspective, we are wired, يعني دماغنا مركب بطريقة to focus on the negative. And this is ideal for our survival because we need to be very alert to threat. And then بنفس الوقت, we are equipped with a thinking device that allows us to properly deal with stress. So on the short term, stress is really the best thing that has happened on the short term, and it provides energy for us to focus on the task. And this is how what happens in the brain when we are stressed, when our attention is caught by a threat. We recruit two consultants. Okay, this is stereotypically as a Bitcoin. Our brain is divided into two parts. The first part is the emotional brain. This is we also call it the limbic brain, very basic biology, don't worry, and neuroscience. It's responsible for things like emotion, artistic creation, creativity, imagination, spirituality. This brain is uncontrollable. يعني إذا بدكم هيدا البارت اللي بنسميه لاواعي ما عندنا كنترول أبداً عليه, and it runs all the automatic processing, heart rate, respiratory rate, etc. بالمقابل بنفس الوقت so نحن عندنا two consultants. One of them is emotional, ثاني واحد is rational. هيدا الراشنال it does all the things related to language, logic processing, mathematical analysis, planning, decision making. Donc when we are faced with stress, short-term stress, both our brains, بشكل 70% منكم يلي they are really stressed, it's a great thing لأنه you are mobilizing your resources, both emotional and rational, to deal with the lockdown. يعني تكونوا creative أكثر تنعرف شو بدنا نعمل بهيدا اللوكداون. وين المشكلة؟ المشكلة إنه when the stress is intense, مثل ما يلي حالياً عم بيصير, okay, we're flooded with information, catastrophic information, كل العالم غرقان, ما بحياته حدا نفكر إنه ممكن نوصل لهون, okay? So when the stress is intense and it's chronic, يعني بيضل على فترة طويلة, our species fail. دماغنا مش مركب to process هالقد information على المدى الطويل. What happens is our emotional brain becomes more active ونحن بالدارج بنقول ضو راسي. اوكي دونك بيصير في اذا بنعمل افامراي لدماغ حدا under stress او anxiety, اوكي negative stress طبعا عم نحكي, بهيدا البارت من الدماغ the limbic brain becomes hyperactivated. بنفس الوقت what happens is it short circuits, so it closes down the rational brain. Donc typically بنقول سكر راسي. So عنا uncontrollable part of the brain يلي بتضوي, it becomes hyperactive, وبنفس الوقت the controllable part يلي بخلينا نسيطر على أحاسيسنا ونسيطر على تصرفاتنا, اوكي بتسكر. دونك كل شيء وقت حدا بيكون ستريس وبنقول له ريلاكس وتشيل وكذا, these usually, I mean, I don't know if you know of anyone who relaxes when you say chill ما بدها هالقد. It's because this part of the brain that is logical is working less efficiently. What happens at the same time is now there's a surge of مثل ما حدا mentioned cortisol and adrenaline يلي هن stress hormones. دونك تفتح حنفية الستريس هرمون and you're flooded with cortisol. In limited amounts, مثل ما قلنا, cortisol is great because it gets you active and motivated. هلا in excessive amounts, it has a negative influence. هلا we're going to talk about this. It has a negative influence on your body, on your mind, on your behavior, and on your emotions as well. ونحن typically بنقول إنه نسم بدني. So this is it. When the stress becomes chronic, وهيدا اللي عم بيصير مع اللوك داون وكل جمعة بنرجع بنطوي الجمعة. When the source of stress is uncertain, it's unknown, ما بنعرف قد ايه رح نبقى ولا بنعرف exactly شو هو الفيروس وشو شو البرسبكتيفز اللي عندنا اياهم. Okay, we go into a state of excessive stress that becomes damaging and negative. And هلا we're going to talk about what we can do to deal with it. Just one metaphor that I like to use that explains a bit the whole processing. هيدا limbic brain or the emotional part of the brain, okay, it regulates مثل ما قلنا الفيزيولوجي. هلا جسمنا بيمشي بطريقه مثل السياره، عنده تتمشي عندها دعسه فران ودعسه بنزين. Benzene is the accelerator, so it makes every organ in our body works faster. وبنفس الوقت الفران هي الدعسة or the brake pedal is the one that slows down your organism. What happens under excessive stress is, and I'm sure you can guess, أي واحدة بتمشي أكتر دعسة البنزين أم دعسة الفران. Okay, obviously, the surge in cortisol secretion makes our sympathetic nervous system much more reactive. Donc كأننا داعسين full blown بنزين وطبعا you can guess إنه it's easier for us نتهور ونفوت بالحيط. نحن we're gonna learn how to regulate دعسات الفران والبنزين. هلا now is your turn to tell me what happens when you're stressed. So 70% of you are saying that you are more stressed since the beginning of the lockdown. What does this look like for you? And then we're going to try to cluster them, explain them first, and then discuss ways to deal with it. So how do you feel? How do you know that you are stressed? Or when you tell me that you are excessively stressed during this lockdown, لأن محجوزين بالبيت, what does this look like? Always feeling lost, unorganized, excessive sleeping, okay, the quality of sleep, insomnia, uncertainty, you're eating too much, too little, anxious, depressed, nervous. Okay, let's try heart palpitation. Let's try anger, insomnia again. See, you're not alone there. So let's try to cluster these symptoms to better understand them. Frustrated, crying, anxiety. أولاً let's focus on what happens to your body when you are stressed. برجع بذكر إنه stress can be positive or negative. نحن هلا we're focusing on the negative consequences of excessive stress. Okay, 3 things just to cluster them and explain them. First one is all of your internal organs start malfunctioning. يعني the respiratory system malfunctions. بنحس كأنه عنا ضيقة نفس، كأنه the respiration is very rapid and very shallow. Cardiac system is altered as well. بنحس إنه دقات قلبنا صاروا كتير سريعين. Panic attacks, someone is saying. Dermatological problems as well. So Joelle, if you're here, correct me if I'm wrong. You start having more rashes, more dermatological problems, dry skins. So internal organs malfunction, okay, when you are under stress. And most of you are reporting inflammation, night panic attacks, heart beats faster. ثاني مشكلة هي إنه our immunity decreases. Obviously هلا مع الكورونا pandemic it's even more problematic. So نحن ما رح نقول إنه stress is causing the disease، بس رح نقول إنه stress weakens your immunity. يعني you're more likely أولاً to catch the disease. If you are already sick or you have a disease, the prognosis worsens. يعني it becomes harder for you to get over it. ثالث شغلة هي إنه الأوجاع عادة the reported pains increase. So you start reporting more headache أكيد with no medical reasons, okay? Headache, backache, shoulder ache, stomach ache, وجع بالمفاصل. So كل الأوجاع بجسمنا بتزيد من وراء البين. Stomach ache مزبوط, nervousness, constipation. So كل هيدول هن physiological symptoms of stress. So هيدا أول cluster. الكلاستر الثاني هو على مستوى المشاعر والعواطف. Most of you have reported anger, nervousness, irritability وهيدا شيء كتير مزبوط. When you are stressed, هلا our modern lifestyles أصلاً صايرين كتير stressful. بس إن كان بالأحرى when we are on lockdown, we feel like we are on an emotional roller coaster. And I want to link that again to, you know, this imbalance between the two advisors in your brain. يعني the emotional brain is hyperactive. Rational brain يلي عادة it helps us regulate our emotions هيدا مش عم يشتغل مزبوط. So the emotional roller coasters هو إنه أيامات we feel super happy, super on top, مسيطرين, كأنه it's vacation time, we're spending quality time with the family. تاني نهار بنحس دبرس على الآخر، مش قادرين، رح نفقع من هاللوك داون. So this is an emotional roller coaster. It also looks, and some psychologists have found similarities between the emotions we go through and actually the emotions we go through when we grieve. يعني أول شيء في denial. أوكي كورونا ماشي الحال، فينا نطلع نعمل سكي بالزعرور وهلا بتقطع جمعة زمان وبيمشي الحال. Then we realize إنه لحظة guys, this is real, this is a real threat. So we go into anger stages. إنه معقول راحوا البلانز تبع الصيفية وأنا كيف بدي أعمل و I have a business to run ومش مقبول ومش رح يمشي شيء So هيدي الأنجر. نرجع منفوت بستيج بارجنينج. طب اوكي سافا ماشي الحال، نقطع جمعتين بالبيت، وي لوك داون، نمشي الحال، ايسوليشن، كوارنتين، سوشيال ديستانسينج، وبنرجع بنقلع بحياتنا. كمان من بعد فتره البارجنينج ما مشي حاله لانه اضطرينا نطول المده بعد اطول. وي فول انتو ا ديبرشن، انه خلص يو جايز جربنا كل شيء وطبخنا ورسمنا ولونا وشطفنا وظبطنا الخزانات، ما بقى في شيء نعمله. Okay, and the problem with depression is it leads to helplessness، وهلا رح نحكي عنها. والفاينل ستيج اللي هي انا بحب ساعد ونتساعد بين بعض نوصل عليها، يلي هي الاكسبتنس، انه خلاص guys this is it, let's do the best we can with what we have. So emotional roller coaster is one. Irritability مثل ما كثير قال is the second one. وثالث وحده هي الانكزايتي والدبرشن بيزيدوا. هون صرنا عم نحكي عن clinical anxiety وclinical depression، وعلى كل حال نحن بالدارج بنقول يلي بيغير عادته بتقل سعادته. Donc this is an understanding انه when we have a lot of things to change. تخيلوا قد ايه تغيرت حياتنا من وقت اللوك داون، كله تفشكل وتشقلب وتخبص، يعني قد ايه ليفل الكآبه والقلق والهلع. ونحن بنعرف انه بكثير بلدان من العالم، بركي مش بلبنان، صار في رش out of any possible stock على التويلت بيبر. So this is explained by هيدا excessive stress يلي بنروح عليه. ثالث كلاستر يلي بدنا نحكي عنه هو what happens at the level of your mind. اوكي يعني على مستوى التفكير تبعنا. كمان 3 اشياء to try and summarize and wrap up what most of you have reported. اولا مشكله بكل الcognitive functions، يعني ما بيعود نعرف ناخذ قرار، ما بيعود فينا نركز، our memory is altered. So if we have an assignment and our boss is pressuring us، ما بنعود نقدر to deliver on time, we become less performant. If we are students studying, our memory is altered as well. Another factor in the cognitive changes related to stress هو helplessness، يعني الإحساس إنه نحن ما بقى في شيء فينا نعمله. أوكي وهذا كتير خطر لأنه بنوقف نجرب، يعني we stop trying to adjust and to cope efficiently, and this has been proven to be correlated with a severe decrease in physical and in mental health. والمشكله الثالثه على مستوى التفكير هو بنسميه catastrophizing، يعني بيصير حيلا minor setback بنحسه انه هو درام. هلا صحيح بدنا نعترف انه في اجتياح لكميه النيجاتيف information that we have، but the problem is انه from this point onward اوكي بنصير نعمل من الحبه قبه. يعني اذا الاولاد مش عم بيناموا تاخروا نص ساعه عن الروتين تبع نومهم بنحس دراما وانه we're failing at parenting. واذا في شي نهار تاخرنا to deliver on a submission to our boss، لا هيدا نهايه العالم و it's a regression ومش عم نقدر نطلع من الموضوع. دونك هيدا بتصير it's a negative cycle بتزرب. And the last cluster I want us to talk about is behavioral changes. أول شيء بيتغير هو الروتين كمان. So the type of food we start craving changes as well. A lot of us are reporting insomnia. So the quality of sleep changes. The time we sleep either less or too much. So the daily routine that we have is changed regularly when we are excessively stressed, and even more so هلا لأنه we are locked down وما بقى فينا نظهر من البيت وتغير كتير من عوايدنا. هل نحن مضغوطين وموجوعين ومقهورين؟ اوكي المتنفس تبعنا هن some of the habits like smoking, like binge eating, like watching Netflix, and I have nothing against any of these, like drinking coffee, consuming wine, eating chocolate. هلا دارج المعمول بفترة العيد. هلا what happens is انتو you reporting you have a problem with these. I want you to change perspective for a minute. Okay, from your brain's perspective, you are stressed, you are tense, and then you smoke, and then you're feeling well. and then you binge eat on chocolate, and then you're feeling well. What kind of signal does this send to your brain? It sends a signal, and when you're stressed, you eat, you feel well. So eating becomes the solution. It's not the problem for your brain. بالعكس هذا هو الحل. ومن هون بيصيروا المشاكل الادكشنز بيزيدوا. إن كانوا addiction على السبستانسز دونك مثل القهوة والالكوهول والسليبينج بيلز والدراج أو على البيهيفيرز مثل البنج واتشينج تي في أو gambling etc. هلا برجع بذكركم عن جديد إنه نحن قلنا إنه the controllable part of our brain مسكر. So حتى إذا قلنا أوكي أنا رح أفتح علبة الشوكولا آكل 2 أرجع سكر العلبة doesn't work you guys. مش حق عليكم إرادتكم مش ضعيفة. It's because we are wired okay automatically to give the lead to the emotional brain, and this brain is uncontrollable. إذا حكيتوا معه أوكي ما بيرد ما بيسمع. It's an automatic uncontrollable part of the brain. واخر شيء بحب احكي عنه ضمن the cluster of the behavioral changes that are reported when you are stressed ويلي هلا عم بيزيد بشكل كتير كبير ومش بس بلبنان across the world as well, and I'm sure you're seeing issues related to the matter on social media هو aggressiveness يعني العنف, وعم نحكي عن العنف الأسري. اوكي دونك the reports مش بس بلبنان وكان بيزيدوا بشكل كتير كبير. هلا خلينا اعطيكم between bracket a small example or a small explanation ليه هالقد العنف بيزيد when you are under stress. تخيلوا معي if you have children I'm sure you can relate, and if you don't have children I'm sure you will understand. عادة ولد صغير وقت بيكون راكد مش منتبه وبيضرب بالطاولة أما بيضرب بالحيط he feels pain صح؟ شو الأوتوماتيك ريسبونس يلي الأهل عادة بيعملوها؟ وأكيد ما عم زني بالأهل بس بحب بس ألفت نظر. دغري بنقول to distract the child okay instead of validating their feeling انه انت موجوع let's deal with the pain, what we tell the kids is ضد الطاوله مشان ميور مشان الحيط انت ثقيل يلا ضرب الحيط. بهاي الطريقه شو بنكون عم نعلم؟ what are we teaching our kids? We're telling them that when they're hurt because I mean اولا they don't have the right to be in pain, we need to distract them from the pain. دونك ما عم نعلمهم what to do with their stress. وثانيا عم نعلمهم to blame someone ما خصه انه الحيط صراحه ما هز من محله ولا الطاوله. So we're teaching them يضربوا الحيط. اوكي الحيط again ما ذنبه والطاوله ما ذنبها. دونك عم نعلمهم انه وقتها they're stressed اما they're in pain اما whatever to distract themselves من الوجع تبعهم يضربوا حدا اما يفشوا خلقهم بحدا. وقت نكون اولاد صغار بعمر سنه سنتين ثلاثه اربعه هيدا الشيء بيتسجل بدماغنا الايموشن. Okay, so this becomes an automatic response. Whenever you are in pain, you feel like you need to hit someone or something to feel well. Okay, لازم نشبك شيء, نكسر شيء, نحطم شيء لحتى نرتاح. And this is again because we have automatically learned to deal with. This is how we have learned to deal with stress. هلا does it mean we cannot change؟ أكيد لا. وبحب اعطيكم example كثير بسيط اللي هو الفاير فايترز والسولجرز. عاده when we are faced with مثلا fire اما threat او guns automatic response تبعنا هي شو؟ هي انه نهرب. اوكي نحن we train الفاير فايترز والسولجرز لحتى ما not to succumb to this automatic impulse okay but rather to find adjusted rational ways to deal with the stressors. And this is what we're going to be doing in the rest of the talk together. So من بعد ما حكينا عن ستريس, من بعد ما فضفضنا شو بيعملنا ستريس وشو بيخربط على الليفل الفيزيولوجي, الايموشنز, الثوتس والبيهيفيرز تبعنا, let's talk about what we can do. Because I said that stress is wired in our brain's natural response to deal with it. On the short term, okay, مثل ما عنا دعسة البنزين يلي هي بتسرع السيارة, we have ways to press on the brake pedal يلي هي it helps us relax, and both are mutually exclusive. So ما فيكم تكونوا مثلا عم تغنوا happy birthday وانتم زعلانين, اوكي ما بتزبط. دونك في عنا وحده بتزيد الستريس يعني بتزيد الكورتيزول والادرينالين يلي كلكم تعرفون, and the other one is actually decreases the stress hormones. So these are positive hormones, okay, pleasurable hormones. You don't need to memorize their fancy chemical names. But I'm going to tell you what we can do, and this I like to call them superheroes, and we are naturally equipped with these little tiny molecules. I'm going to be talking about 3. So again, these positive hormones, they counterbalance the negative stress hormones. أول وحدة هي الendorphins يلي هي عادة it's secreted, we call it the well-being hormone. it's a painkiller. نحن قلنا مشاكل الستريس هي إنه الأوجاع كلها بتزيد، هيدي بتخفف الأوجاع. Endorphins كيف منزيد من production تبع endorphins when we exercise for at least 30 minutes. And I know you can't go to the gym, but I also know that there are lots of PTs and gyms حطوا tracks freely accessible on Instagram, Facebook, social media حتى يشجعونا to exercise at home. الاكسرسايز ما ضروري يكون بس سبار، فيه يكون كمان بالرقص so dancing، فيه يكون بشغل البيت تمسيح تكنيس جالي تنظيف اتسترا، فيه يكون بالشغل بالحقله او اذا عندنا جاردن صغير قدام البيت. ونحن بنقول تبيكلي باللبناني العقل السليم بالجسم السليم. دونك هون عم we have proven scientific track records and when you increase endorphin secretion you start feeling overall more calm and more peaceful. Endorphins is also secreted when you are praying. So those of you with spiritual or religious practices, when you're praying, you start feeling better, أكيد because of the spiritual connectivity and the meaning you give to your life, بس كمان لأنه you get more secretion of these positive hormones. وآخر طريقة to increase endorphin secretion is by voluntary. So لكل المتطوعين بالصليب الأحمر بالدفاع المدني بالNGOs اللي كتير نشيطين هلا during the lockdown, this helps you increase endorphin secretion and I thank you on behalf of everyone you're serving. تاني هرمون معنا الليلة هي الأوسيتوسين. Oxytocin is the love hormone, so it makes you feel connected. تتذكروا وقت حكينا عن balance between environmental resources and environmental demands and personal resources. قلنا إنه connection to others around us is very important. It's important because it makes us feel good about ourselves. So it's increased when you are with people you love and when you're doing something you love. Let's talk about people you love. مش بس عم نحكي عن الرومانتيك بارتنرز بس أكيد لهم حصة كبيرة بالموضوع. بس كمان we're talking about hugging your child, talking to your friend, family members with you in the house. And even virtual coffee helps. So if you're taking your coffee هيك وهيك عم تاخدوها لهالقهوة, might as well take it with a virtual friend, مش imaginary, virtual. Okay, donc هيدا when we are with people we love, بس كمان نفس الوقت when we're doing something we love. وبكثير من الاويرنس فيديوز اما التوكس اللي نسمعهم على السوشيال ميديا مؤخرا نحكي عن the importance of developing a hobby. It's not just a distraction. Okay, منه بس نعبي وقتنا, which is not bad كمان. Okay, it also helps you increase oxytocin production. So هول الهوبيز او هول the little pleasures of life فيهم يكونوا نقرا كتاب, نلون, نرسم, نسمع موسيقى, ندق موسيقى, نصور, نبعت صورنا لاهلنا لاصحابنا. So all of these activities, نطبخ, هلا صار كثير دارج الطبخ كمان. All of these increase oxytocin production, and oxytocin is a positive hormone that counteracts excessive cortisol secretion. So we talked about endorphins and oxytocin. وآخر super hero هو melatonin. هيدا صديقنا is produced when you are sleeping at night. Donc relatively سهل نحصل عليه. بس it's produced when you are sleeping during dark hours. يعني typically بين 11 وال 6. المشكلة وين؟ إنه نحنا لأنه we're binge watching series on TV أو عم نحضر talk shows أو اللي هي أوكي منقفل 11 أوكي we go all the way to 2-3 o'clock in the morning. حتى إذا ضمنا 10 ساعات من بعدها يعطيكم العافية ما بيطلع لنا melatonin. So melatonin is produced and it's an antidepressant hormone. Donc بتعاكس قصة الدبريشن والزعل والكآبة. So كل الemotional residues تبع النهار تبعنا it washes them مثل الغسالة نحن ونايمين. مش هيك إذا ما نمنا مزبوط بالساعات المطلوبة okay you're not gonna get clean laundry in the morning. هلا مش رح أقول لكم روحوا ناموا على 11. I know this is not feasible. فيها أعطيكم للوحدة. okay donc هول ثلاثة سوبر هيروز تبعنا. هلا practically okay وين بنصرف هيدا كله؟ Let me talk to you. I've selected يعني حيلا activity بتعملوها بتزيد من secretion تبع endorphins, oxytocin and melatonin is going to help you decrease stress by indirectly calming down your amygdala, okay, and your emotional brain, and your prefrontal cortex or your rational brain بيرجع it can take over again. Let me talk about few techniques that are super helpful, beyond helpful. I cannot recommend them enough. I've tried them on my kids. They can tell you it works. I've tried them on myself. And by the way, I do them every day. I tried them on my husband. He's approving. He's here with me in the room, so he's approving. On my patients, or with my patients, my students, and the techniques really work. They're not necessarily rocket science techniques, but they are backed by sciences. So I can share with you data, research. I'm replicating some of the research, and we have very promising preliminary results. So these things, they do work. Let's talk about one of those techniques, يلي هي the cardiac coherence. Now these techniques you can, okay, let me introduce the technique first. Cardiac coherence is a breathing exercise. There are lots of breathing exercises. They're all relatively scientifically proven. Let me talk to you about this one. So the thing with cardiac coherence is الوصفة الطبية إذا بدكم تبعه is you have to do it 3 times a day. So على بكرة الظهر وعشية. Okay, مثل البانادول. It gets you covered for 6 hours when you do this. You need to do it بالأول تتمرنوا for around 5 minutes. بعدين دقيقتين بيصير يمشي حاله. And then the trick is to have 6 respiration per minute. So 6 respirations يعني you inhale for 5 seconds. Okay, sorry نقطع نفس على الحماس. And then you exhale for another 5 seconds. Okay, هي. So you inhale 5 seconds, you exhale for 5 seconds. And it balances. So there's a coherence between your heart and your brain. It's an indirect way of calming your emotional brain. أنا بحب أذكركم بعد مرة إنه صديقنا الemotional brain is automatic, uncontrollable, ما بيرد علينا وقت نحكي معه. هلا اللذة بالcardiac coherence إنه there is a free app that is available on smartphones, Androids, iPhones اللي بدكم إياه. So I highly encourage you to download this one. اسمه cardiac coherence assistant. Okay, so it helps you inhale for 5 seconds مثل ما قلنا and then exhale for 5 seconds. The benefits تبع cardiac coherence have been proven in fixing insomnia. So if you guys have insomnia, this is perfect for you. بس برجع بقول 3 مرات على بكرة الظهر وعشية. Hypertension, diabetes. Olympic athletes use it to improve their sports performances. It has a small gadget هيك مثل electrode بتحطوها. You can plug it on your phones and on your earlobes, and then you can monitor. يعني فيكم تقشعوا, and this is called biofeedback. فيكم تقشعوا كيف هيدي respiration عم بتحسن. أصلاً most of your smartwatches maybe can show you the heart rate variabilities and how do they change when you're using cardiac coherence. So the exact name of the application is Cardiac Coherence Assistant. And there are even books for those of you who like to read. مثل هيدول, I have them in French, but they're translated in English. Maigrir par la cohérence cardiaque. So you can do this to replace emotional eating. وهلا رح نحكي عن behavioral replacement كيف بيصير. And another book by David Servan-Schreiber, and this is one of my absolute favorites, Healing Stress and Anxiety and Depression without medication or psychoanalysis. And it also talks about cardiac coherence among other techniques. Thank you, Remy. The second one is, the second technique is EFT. It's emotional freedom technique. نحن قلنا إنه المشكلة باللوك داون is إنه we're feeling emotionally tense, irritable, anxious, nervous. سميتوا كتير من ال emotional aspects. EFT works beautifully. It works on these emotional tensions. It works on addiction. So if you have an urge to eat chocolate, to gamble, to watch Netflix, إذا حاسين إنه مش حارقين بدكم سيجارة وما بتعرفوا what to do, you can use EFT, okay, to regulate these urges, and it works as well on pain. So it decreases, significantly decreases physical pain. Even if the pain is due to a medical injury, إذا حدا انكسر إجره إيده, the sensation of pain, you can make it decrease, make it more bearable with techniques like emotional freedom technique. It's a tapping technique. Tapping, يعني you need to tap on your face or sensory points. هيدول الpoints اللي عنا إياهم, okay, that you see that you can see on the slide, they're actually nerve endings. هيدا long story short, nerve endings of parasympathetic nervous system يلي هو the system that regulates دعسة البريك, يعني الفرامل. Okay, donc by tapping or stimulating, so it can either be tapping or it can be mechanical stimulation of these points on your face. It decreases the emotional tension that you have. What is absolutely beautiful about this technique is كمان it has a free app on Androids and cell phones اسمه the tapping solution, and you can see it in front of you. اللذة فيها هيدا التكنيك is إنه it's a funny technique. You know, people are very skeptical إنه شو I tap on my face and it's gonna make pain and stress go away. Guess what, you guys? It does. And if you don't trust me, try it for yourself. There are tons of publication, scientific publication on the matter, and I really highly encourage you to download the app right now. So هيدا دعاية ال EFT. Now let's talk about something else. So let's talk about gratitude. هيدا كمان, it's a very easy, simple exercise, not rocket science, but very scientifically proven. مثل ما Robin قال in the introduction, we've replicated the exercises of gratitude on Red Cross volunteers هلا قبل الكورونا, but it works as well هلا. and بصرفوا هن لانه وقت بيكونوا permanence بالمراكز, okay, بيكونوا they're sleep deprived بالليالي اللي بيكون عندهم obviously فيها permanence. Donc we've assessed sleep deprivation, sleep quality, anxiety, stress in healthy Red Cross volunteers, and we've asked them to do this gratitude exercise. And even for very healthy, normal, happy, functioning individuals like most of ourselves here, this gratitude exercise facilitates, improves sleeping, stress, etc. شو هو الجراتيتيود exercise؟ probably كل أهالينا كانوا يعملوا لنا إياه نحن وصغار قبل ما نروح ننام, تنقول إنه thank you God for having the best parents ever, and this is not a bad idea. I do it with my kids, but the idea is to say to write down, okay, 5 things you are grateful for. 1 2 3 4 5. So 5 أشياء you are grateful for بحياتكم during the lockdown. Okay, رح أعطيكم مثل, and we're going to do this exercise together بس تشوفوا قد إيه سريع الexercise. And على سرعته brain structures change. So if we scan your brain هلا وبعد مدة من daily practice of gratitude رح تشوفوا إنه بيرجع بيتغير. So هيدا imbalance in your brains بيرجع بيزبط. And anyways you will feel better. So في saying إنه if you want to wake up happy, sleep grateful. Donc my medical recommendation is for you to do this exercise, especially before you go to bed. Let's attempt doing one right now, and I encourage you to do it with me, to think of 5 things you are grateful for. So أول وحدة, I'm grateful for coffee and the quality, peaceful time it gives me, alone time. I'm grateful during lockdown. I am grateful my girls are spending more time together and they are also learning new tasks. I'm grateful for comfort food that my mom and my mom-in-law somehow managed to have delivered to our doorsteps. I'm grateful for my new office and the cute guy in the office next door, and you can guess that this is my husband. And I'm also extremely grateful for Zoom because it's allowing me to connect with family, locally and internationally, with friends, with students, and with all of you guys from the comfort of my living room. So thank you, God, for all of this. And also thank you, a major thanks for the medical team who's keeping all of us safe. The last one is the behavioral change, and then we'll wrap up and we'll take more questions. The idea is to replace one maladaptive behavior with a behavioral one. ونحن ما رح نجي نقول don't smoke, don't overeat chocolate, don't binge watch Netflix. نقول every time you feel like you're craving or you have an urge, replace it with something that you like. Replace it with cardiac coherence. Replace it with EFT. Replace it with physical exercise. Replace it with reading. Replace it with playing music. And I urge you to choose one now. I know a lot of you are writing things in the chat box, so this is exactly what it takes. Halla, commit to one. You will start as of today. Okay, what is one thing you want to change? One change at a time. Okay, but replace a maladaptive behavior with an adapted one. I know we're short on time, so let me wrap up. I want to say that we are all the same facing the corona and the lockdown. So we all have to stay at home, but we're not all the same in dealing with the stress that comes our way because of so many factors. And the most important thing this lockdown has done is it has deprived us from important social support. ونحن بنقول جنة بلا ناس ما بتنداس. So there's a massive tendency هلا trend إذا بدكم on Facebook and Instagram and social media to replace social distancing with social solidarity and physical distancing, because we absolutely need social bonds. هلا to restore the balance إذا بدنا to wrap up كل الحديث من الأول about stress, to restore the balance between the emotional brain and the rational brain, what we need to do is decrease the activity of the emotional brain. So identify what is pushing your points, identify your pain points. انتوا شو زعجكم بهاللوك داون؟ ما عندكم وقت، الأولاد، الشغل، الفاينانسز. Identify pain points. Press the gas pedal and the braking pedal. So to counterbalance the gas pedal, press the braking pedal. And you can do that with secretion of endorphins, melatonin, and oxytocin. And download helpful applications. Choose one to replace maladaptive behavior. بنفس الوقت, we want to increase the controllability of the rational brain. So only when you decrease emotional hyperactivity, we can restore rational balance. So the first recommendation is to practice daily. You know, your brain is like a muscle. This is like when you go to the gym. You go to the gym one time, or you do the gym at home, you feel better, okay? But if you're looking in the mirror, your body hasn't changed yet. So this is a muscle that you need to keep a routine, you know, to develop properly. نحن طبعا بنقول التكرار بيعلم الشطار. Third recommendation is to shift your perception and to focus on the positive. مثل ما في بلاسيبو إيفكت، دونك أول ما نبلع البانادول أو ناخد القهوة بنحس دغري إنه we're feeling better even though pharmacologically بدنا شي نص ساعة يتحسن الوضع. أوكي، في شيء اسمه نوسيبو. So النوسيبو هو إنه وقت بنحس إنه في شيء ما راح يفيد effectively ما بيفيد. So we need to focus on positive news. You guys, there's a lot of positive. بعرف إنه نشرات الأخبار مثل وراء النعوة يعني في مليار negative لواحد positive. This is where we need to keep our focus. Okay, automatically نحن بنركز for survival على negative. بده conscious effort الواحد تقدر يركز على positive. ونحن بنقول بالعربي الدارج تفاءلوا بالخير تجدوه. This is what you need to do. في كتير creative expressions حوالينا. This is what we need to focus on. LAU came up with a mobile clinic. Well done, you guys. NGOs عم بيبتكروا طرق جديدة to raise funds, to have more community. Artists عم بيحطوا online concerts. This is great. So we need to focus on the recovery rate. People who are overcoming coronavirus. This is what we need to focus on. The positive things our kids, our family, ourselves, and the world is doing. واخر وحده هي to humor yourself. وهون بفتكر انه نحن شعب كتير resilient, شعب كتير مهضوم وكتير بنكت, and we need to keep circulating positive funny stuff. كل هيدول they are gonna help your rational brain gain control. My take-home message for you guys is I don't want to sound like I'm over romanticizing the COVID-19 pandemic. Earth is recovering, we are spending quality time with our family. All of this is good, بس كان في مثل بيقول كل شيء زاد بالمعنى ناقص. So this is going to be tough. This is going to be hard. I don't want to mean if you run and you exercise and you eat well and you sleep well and you breathe and you tap, okay, رح تختفي المشاكل ورح نعيش بعالم كتير حلو. What I want to say is this is tough. We have to make it all together. One way of making it more enjoyable is by cooking, running, breathing, and tapping. And mostly not just accepting, okay, we are on lockdown and we're staying home, but finding a meaning. Okay, هيدا المعنى الناقص بدنا نرجع نحطه. The meaning can be humanitarian, political, environmental, personal, medical, whatever meaning you want to give to this lockdown, make sure you find one, and it's gonna help us outgrow this altogether. And please, let's all do this one day at a time. Thank you. I think we're fine for the timing. I might have taken a few extra minutes. So now I'm ready for your questions. Thank you. Thank you for all the lovely compliments, you guys. I'll make sure I read them. Thank you, chapeau bas. Merci beaucoup. Thank you. I'm humbled. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I really hope that you can take some of these practices and try them at home as of today. On yourself, your kids, your spouses. Questions? Okay. You're stress-free now. Great, thank you. Good to know. See, psychotherapy is based on talk therapy. So when you talk about things, it rewires your brain. And it gives you even more control. It rewires the brain balance. Both consultants are very important. Okay, the emotional brain is not the bad guy. It's just that when it's overactive, okay, the system goes bad. So we need to find the balance again. What is positive stress? Positive stress is major events that we have that are actually very enjoyable and that imply a change, a certain change. Let me give you rapid examples: wedding, birthdays, promotions. So all of these are positively stressful events. Usually they're desired events. There you have challenges there. You have to meet these challenges, but it's enjoyable. Yani the repercussions are positive. So I would like us not to think of stress as a negative thing. So if you're thinking of the car metaphor, okay, the stress is your fuel, benzine تبع السيارة. If you don't have any of it, your organism will not run. So you want a bit of stress, but if you have too much, okay, دعسة البنزين الزيادة بتفوتنا بالحيط. What we need to do is, increase the braking pedal and know how to steer our car. If the kids are crying or kids come in, they can benefit from cardiac coherence technique and tapping technique. These are ideal, and no, you don't need to rationalize, you don't need to discuss, you don't need to focus on positive or change perspectives. I just want to tell you that up until 25 years of age, your prefrontal cortex, هيدا شقفة rational brain يلي هي ورا الفورهيد تبعنا, is not yet fully wired to the rest of the brain. Okay, so it's challenging, especially for kids under 7, to process هيدا information. بشكل نعتبر إنه the indirect techniques that target the emotional brain indirectly, يعني cardiac coherence, the breathing exercise, والtapping techniques, they work with the kids. Actually, في protocols معينين. And again, if you download the app, you can find it's the tapping technique as a guided tapping technique, so you can use it together with your kids, and you can teach them to tap and to breathe alongside with you. 5 seconds obviously is a long time for kids, so نعمل لهم خصم ل 3 seconds. You've been exercising, eating better foods, focusing on the positive. This is great. You need to keep doing that daily. So مثل ما قلنا, if you do this one time, كأنه رحنا على الجيم نهار واحد, أكيد ما رح نخسر الextra weight ولا رح نظبط شكلنا. ولا رح يكونوا المسلز تبعنا زادوا. This is something we need to do every day. أكيد المنافع بيبينوا on a short period of time, بس تنقول إنه شيء صار automatic, it needs a couple of months. So keep doing what you're doing, intensify it, and you're feeling well. What about children on the spectrum who naturally have lack of positive hormones? هلا we can مثل ما قلنا the positive hormones اللي هن endorphins, melatonin واوسيتوسين, في activities معينين بيساعدوا إن كان الأولاد وإن كان الكبار to increase the production of or the secretion of these hormones. Physical exercise, gratitude practices, praying, volunteering, it works with the kids as well. So even if they have, and it's a good question, لأنه نحن, these are things we inherit. يعني the baseline level of the secretion of these hormones مثل طولنا, مثل وزننا, مثل لون عيوننا, هيدا شيء بنورثه طبيعيا, but في margin يلي فينا نشتغل عليها. دونك البيسلاين cortisol level مثل ما كل السيارات اللي عنا ما بتشبه بعضها in its performance. اوكي, دونك في عنا السيارات السريعه البرفورمنت اللوكجريوس, وفي عنا السيارات المتواضعه الخفيف نظيف اللذيذه. دونك نحن نفس الموضوع, reactivity تبع sympathetic nervous system, يعني قد ايه دمنا حامي او بالعكس نحن باردين. This is something we inherit. هذا شيء كثير طبيعي وهذا شيء ما بيتغير. حتى إذا we breathe and exercise and cook and meditate and pray ما بيتغير. What changes is our capacity to regain control over that. Recording of the sessions, I think Sherbil can better answer that, but they will be made, the recordings will be made available later on. Seeing green nature helps. Yes, it does. Exposure to the sun helps. In the book that I've recommended by David Servan-Schreiber on healing anxiety and depression, he talks about, with the scientific references, okay, في كتير قصص مثل ما فرجيتكم it's common sense، يعني بالدارج نحن بنعتبرهم شيء كتير منطقي. عملنا كتير researches وراهم، أبحاث علمية تنبين إنه it's really scientific. So exposure to sunlight does help. And actually some patients يلي عندهم depression, they are told to expose themselves to sunlight. Individuals who already struggle with OCD, anxiety disorders, and PTSD. This is a very important question. Now we're saying that in the best case scenarios, stress worsens the medical and the psychological conditions of individuals. For people who are already struggling, now if these people are already going through therapies, then they're already learning techniques to manage their stress and to deal with their stress. But طبعا if these people are struggling with their symptoms, the techniques that we've discussed يعني هن the breathing, exercising، بدي ارجع اذكر cardiac coherence، EFT، gratitude، هدول كلهم بيساعدوا to manage the symptoms. بس إذا عم نحكي عن OCD, depression و PTSD, then referring to a psychotherapist is an absolute must in these conditions. وفي كتير psychological hotlines made كمان freely available to help people cope during this, especially during this lockdown. Yes, friends who have OCD, أكيد social support, as we said, is always a good idea. But it's not your responsibility to treat their OCD. يعني it's not. You should refer them, okay, to professional psychological or medical or psychiatric support. But of course, being a friend, being supportive is going to help them deal with stress. يعني you will be helping them in increasing their personal resources, and this is very important in reducing the amount of stress or the perception of stress. How can you deal with beloved family members with mental illnesses who's rejecting support? Diana, I want you to know that this is in fact a very important or challenge that mental health professionals face, مش بس بلبنان, abroad. The numbers, the statistics we have say it takes on average 5 years. اوكي تخيلوا اذا انتم عم بيجاكم درسكم او سنكم قد ايه معقول تتحملوا قبل ما تروحوا عند medical support او dentist. اوكي يوم يومين جمعه ماكسيموم. العالم يلي عندهم يلي they struggle with mental illnesses عادة it takes them 5 years before they seek professional support. أكيد في lack of awareness، أكيد في تابو على الموضوع، وهيدا كله عم ينشغل عليه بلبنان، وفي يعني عم ينحط in place ضمن الوزارة خطة for mental health support. What you can do is keep being a friend. You don't need to become a therapist, and teach them those techniques that you've learned to help them alleviate stress لحتى يقدروا. مثل ما قلنا وقت واحد بيكون كتير ستريس بيسكر راسه، يعني منعيط على الأولاد بلا قصدنا، منصرخ، منخبط، منكسر، منشرب، مناكل بلا ما نقدر نسيطر. If someone is dealing or struggling with mental illnesses, we need to teach them how to regulate, how to manage their symptoms عبين ما يقبلوا to be referred to a psychologist or psychiatrist for support. Mind tricks for headache. When you feel you have a headache or other problems. عادة physical sensations and pain, I very strongly recommend EFT. So tapping on these physical sensations really help. وأنا هون بدي أعطيكم a personal experience with that. I've had a soccer injury because I used to play with the varsity, the football varsity. And even though I had no medical, or I recovered from my medical injury, for years I kept a physical pain in my leg. And then I used EFT when I learned the technique. Okay, أول شي جربتها على حالي. And you know, the pain is, I don't even know where the pain points were. So EFT works extremely well, even if you have a medical reason. Akid, I'm not saying don't seek medical treatment, but if you're seeking medical treatment and still you're in pain, then EFT is a personal, very highly recommended, يعني بتجي bold, underlined, for dealing with headaches, stomach aches, back aches. If your kids fall and they hurt themselves, they're crying, they're throwing tantrums, it's a brilliant tool. Okay, download it for free, look it up. There are videos on YouTube. I can send you references. It's an absolutely lovely technique to use. And it's funny, you're tapping on yourself and you're saying certain things. So the 3 hormones to increase are, yes, oxytocin, which is the love hormone, melatonin, the feel-good, the sleeping hormone, or the antidepressant hormone, and the last one is endorphin. And this is the well-being hormone. By the way, the substances, painkillers, metal morphine, heroin, opiates, they bind to the receptors of endorphin in our brains to numb the pain. تخيلوا نحن عنا free of charge. If you run for 30 minutes, أما you pray, أما you volunteer, you get your shot of painkillers. So كمان this works for headaches, by the way. Nick Ortner, yes, this is the guy. So Nada's telling everyone, Google Nick Ortner for EFT, absolutely recommendable person. You can follow him as well on social media. They have a lot of workshops. If you cry all the time, what does it mean? Good question. We're saying that when you are stressed, your emotional brain takes the lead, okay? Donc, everything you do becomes kind of uncontrollable. It controls, so when you cry, can you uncry? Or when you blush, can you unblush? Or when you sweat, can you unsweat? Doesn't work that way. The emotional brain هو المدير، بيصير البايلوت الأساسي، donc بيزيح الكوبايلوت على جنب، بيصير هو it's the only one steering your organism. It means you are hypersensitive, and please keep in mind that this can be a positive thing. بمعنى إنه you're more empathetic to people around you, you're more generous عادة, you're more charismatic as well. As the price to pay. يعني كل شيء حلو و luxurious وبيضاين وperformant بيجي حقه غالي. Donc if you are stressed, this is absolutely great, but you pay the price in terms of suffering. And I hope today I've taught you how to, or I've introduced you to techniques on how to deal with this. Robin, you want to ask me to wrap up?
I want to ask you to wrap up, please. Yes, and Michelle will have to attend another meeting.
I'm going to wrap up, and I'm just going to say it's a pleasure hosting everyone today. And I'm going to remind everyone of the session on Monday on emotional intelligence. And if you have questions, you can contact the continuous learning at LAU or myself, and then we'll attend to as many requests as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Myriam, and thank you for everybody.